Hey there, and welcome to another review. Do you like stories about worlds inhabited by spirits? Or stories about a struggling underdog? Or stories including a strong bond between siblings? Then you've come to the right place. In this video, I'll recommend the donghua Rakshasa Street to you. If you nodded to yourself at any of those questions I just asked, there's a high chance you might like this donghua. So without further ado, let's get into the review. And as usual, this is spoiler free. In a world that resembles our own, there are so-called requiem streets. Streets that can only be entered by those who have high spiritual energy and may even possess a guardian spirit. The reason why not everybody can enter those streets is because it's a place between the world of the living and the spirit world. Rakshasa Street is one of those requiem streets, on which spirits live while waiting to cross over to the spirit world. During their time on the requiem streets, these spirits are in danger to turn into evil spirits. It's the job of the requiem generals who rule over those streets to prevent that from happening, or to deal with the fallout. One of the two Chao brothers is such a requiem general for the requiem street called Rakshasa Street. In the present day, he and his brother try to keep things in order in Rakshasa Street. Those episodes about the present are often shown from the lens of a girl called Xia Ling, who just recently discovered that she could enter the requiem street and finds herself staying with the two brothers. But we also get to know about the past of Rakshasa Street because the episodes of Season 1 alternate between the present day and the past about the orphan brothers. First, a quick disclaimer, I did not read the manhua, which was the source material for this donghua, so my opinion is solely based on the donghua. Okay, now that's out of the way, let's get into Rakshasa Street's strengths. For the first time, I wasn't annoyed by the back and forth of one episode being about the present and one about the past. Instead, I actually enjoyed this concept, because the episodes are usually connected in one way or another. Often we are shown how a certain character acts in the present, and in the next episode we're shown what caused him to act like that. That is why I recommend you don't skip any episodes, because you'll miss out on those connections. Also, if you skip some of the episodes about the past, you might end up seriously confused in the present. The art is pretty good. Unlike 4 Kill of 5 Elements, the fight scenes are not a strong suit of this donghua. But Rakshasa Street is well animated and has an appealing style whenever they refrain from using CGI. The plot of Season 1 was great. I can't really go into the specifics without risking spoilers. But as I said, I liked how past and present were intertwined, and Season 1 introduced some intriguing characters and plot points. The twist at the end was well foreshadowed, but not too obvious. It didn't leave me awestruck, but I appreciate how it affected the whole story. The antagonists are quite interesting characters. They made me feel angry, but also a hint of compassion, because the creators hinted at the reason behind the despicable side of the main antagonist. I think it was a good choice though not to get into more details. We're shown enough of those details when it comes to the past of the protagonists, the Chao brothers. I enjoyed the relationship between the two brothers and also their relationship with Xia Ling a lot. Xia Ling is a relatable character for the audience to latch onto. Overall, the important characters are all written well, at least in Season 1, but I'll get to that. If you've watched my video on So I'm a Spider, So What, you might already know that I prefer 2D animation over 3D animation. This is especially true when the CGI is, well, terrible. Sorry, but those computer-generated puppets made the action scenes really hard to get through at times. Season 1 was produced in 2016. CGI and animation has come a long way since then. But Season 2 was produced in 2019. And honestly, the CGI in that season is at least as bad as in Season 1. It was so bad at times that I wasn't sure whether I was watching the mobile game promo or the actual donghua. That the story of the second season was drastically changed from part 1 to part 2 did cause me a lot of confusion. This drastic change resulted in plot holes that were not explained, and the whole story kind of fell apart at that point. Not even the fact that they stopped relying so heavily on CGI in the second part could help that I basically lost all interest in Season 2. Which was a bummer, since there were a lot of open questions at the end of Season 1 that made me want to keep watching. However, all the intriguing plot points are only so much as mentioned in Season 2, to make way for boring and badly animated fight scenes or inconsistent backstories of new characters. I didn't especially dislike these new characters, but I actually would have preferred to get to know more about the plot points that were teased in Season 1, and I would have loved to see more of Xia Ling's development. But she was almost completely sidelined in order to make room for some new characters whose inconsistent and actually quite generic backstories failed to make me care about them. As I said, I didn't read the source material. These characters are probably handled better in the manhua, but Season 2 of the donghua just didn't work for me at all. I totally recommend you watch the first season of Rakshasa Street. That one is really great. Even though it often relied on bad CGI, it still managed to immerse me in the story about the two brothers and Xia Ling. However, I definitely should have stopped there. Season 2 sadly left a bad taste, and I felt kinda betrayed, cause I feel like I was promised a way different show at the end of Season 1. So yeah, if you can see past the bad CGI, go and watch Season 1. Even though I didn't read it, I can only assume that picking up the manhwa if you want to know more about Rakshasa Street is the better option than watching the second season. If any of you know the manhwa, please tell me what you think about it in the comments and whether it's worth checking out. And thank you for checking out this review. If you want to get notified once I post a new review or other fantasy related content, please consider subscribing or just hitting the like button on this video in case you enjoyed it. Anyway, farewell.